Hello and welcome to week 5 of Haywire34. Thank you so much for coming back again, and I really hope you're enjoying it. Today we shall be listening to chapters 9 and 10. Chapter 9. My stomach feels all knotted up with anxiety, Gretchen confided in Mick as they sat in the kitchen. Relax, it's just a dinner party, he replied. I know, but you know how I get. Yes, but we agreed that we're no longer doing things how we used to, Mick reminded her. Yes, Gretchen acquiesced and took a large mouthful of her tepid coffee. Slow down, Mick said, on noticing how quickly Gretchen was gulping her coffee. A coffee break is supposed to be just that, he scolded gently. A break. Slowing down, Gretchen took another sip of her coffee as she sat in restrained silence, watching Mick flip through his records in search of the perfect playlist for the dinner party. You're so thorough, Gretchen told him in a tone that betrayed her growing impatience. Mick smiled knowingly to himself. Yes, I am, with everything I do. His enthusiasm for music was one of the things Gretchen loved most about him, but she'd never understood his obsession for having the right music for each occasion. There's still so much to do, she cried, unable to bear it any longer. The food's sorted, thanks to Kunle's cook, and all we've got to do is defrost, heat it up and cook some rice. I'm not sure about serving our guests food that was cooked a couple of days ago. It was frozen as soon as it was cooked and has remained frozen ever since. It'll be fine, Mick assured Gretchen. I don't know, Gretchen worried. When you taste it, you'll wish he lived next door. Okay, but still, there's lots that needs to be done, Gretchen maintained. The food's sorted, more or less. We got all the drinks last night. I'm working on the music now. What's left? Nibbles and Gretchen caught sight of their sons as they walked into the dining room. Oh, and the boys need a haircut. Hearing his mother, Dominic sprang back. No, he protested. I don't want my hair cut again. You don't have to have your hair cut again, Mick assured his son as the twins came into the kitchen. Gretchen opened her mouth as if to disagree, but remained silent. Mick smiled appreciatively. Holding his gaze, Gretchen smiled back. I meant what I said last night, she told him, alluding to the promise she'd made at the end of their long talk, that she was going to be doing things differently. I believe you, he winked, just as, you're my favourite waste of time, blared from the loudspeaker beside her. Oh my goodness, Gretchen gasped softly. You haven't played that for ages. That was their song from just before she moved to Singapore. At the time, Gretchen wasn't sure where their relationship was headed. Mick wasn't sure either, but any time the topic would come up when she was around at his flat, he'd always play this song for her. It became their song. Whenever they heard it play, they'd always dance and sing along to it. But although it hadn't been enough to convince Gretchen to not take the job in Singapore, it had been enough to convince her to come back to London and marry him, when he got on his knee and with his guitar played and sang it to her on the deck of the rickety old boat that he'd hired to take them to Pulau Ubin, the little island off Singapore, where he proposed to her on his final visit. Watching their sons beginning to sing and dance along to the track, Gretchen smiled. It's the family song now, she mused. The boys have grown up on it. In the past, whenever Gretchen got antsy with Mick about wasting time, he'd always play it for her. Suddenly, Mick whisked her to her feet. Here I am, playing Daydreaming Fool again. You're my favourite game, he crooned in her ear, as their sons bellowed along too. And you're the one who's got my head in the clouds above. You're the one that I love, Gretchen joined them. And you're my favourite waste of time. Gretchen laughed happily as they both joined hands with their sons as they sang and danced to their song that Mick had set on a loop to keep repeating. As the family danced and sang together, the weight of Gretchen's anxiety began to dissipate, and she allowed herself to embrace the chaotic joy that Mick and their sons had brought into their home. The familiar melody of You're My Favourite Waste of Time resounding through the rooms, reviving cherished memories of their shared past and filling Gretchen's thoughts with happy memories and nostalgia. Thanks for the reminder, Gretchen whispered to Mick. I'd forgotten how much I loved dancing with you. I'll never let you forget again, Mick told her as he kissed her tenderly on the lips. As per Mick's assurances, everything was done way before their guests began to arrive. The first to arrive were their close friends Charlotte and Nathan. Thanks for coming early, Lottie, Gretchen said, hugging Charlotte as Charlotte pulled her to the side of the door, almost tripping Nathan as she did so. Steady as you go, he retorted, steadying himself just as Mick rushed forward to catch him. Been on the old sauce already, mate? I wish I had. It's been an unending day of errands. Where do women find all these bloody errands for us? Exactly where we left them, undone, Mick chuffed and escorted his friend into the house. Noah and Dominic were peeping from the top banister. Bed! Mick growled playfully, without looking up, and the boys scurried off in fits of laughter. When the men were out of earshot, Charlotte began her interrogating. Yesterday was pretty intense by the sounds of it, she remarked. Yes, it was a very emotional time. How has today been? Really lovely. I've been on my best behaviour, and Mick's been his usual amazing self. Well, you certainly look very relaxed and zen, Charlotte observed. I feel it, Gretchen admitted. We're a team again. I love him so much, and he loves you too. I know. Cherish it, darling, Charlotte encouraged. You're one of the lucky few. As are you, Lottie, Gretchen riposted. Dropping her gaze, Charlotte smiled sadly as Gretchen, distracted by the headlights, glanced towards the car that was pulling into the vacant space next to Mick's car in the carport beside the house. The car came to a halt. It was a taxi bringing Magda and Simon. Magda, an old school friend of Gretchen's, disembarked from the door closest to Gretchen and Charlotte. Gretchen caught sight of her feet. OMG, Magda! She cried with delight, rushing to her friend while pointing to Magda's black patent shoe boots with the cut-out tops and tartan fabric back section. I want a pair! Where are they from? Magda's husband, Simon, was now standing beside them. They're rather fetching, aren't they? He said, coquettishly teasing his scruffy brown moccasin shoes in and out of view. You must let me borrow them sometime, Gretchen said, playing along. Maybe Sunday? Simon retorted and planted a kiss on her cheek. Reciprocating with a light peck, Gretchen patted him on the back. You best hurry in. Mick's got a 37-year-old whiskey that he's looking to share. Did you say 37-year-old whiskey? Simon asked quietly. Yes, apparently. It was a gift from someone in Nigeria. Oh, my days, he gasped. I want friends like Mick has. Well, play your cards right, and you may make some if you visit him when he's back in Nigeria. I'll be there like a shot if there's that kind of whiskey being given out, Simon said, and hurried quickly inside. What's the story with the whiskey? Magda asked. Search me, Gretchen shrugged. All I know is that it gets them all very excited. You saw how quickly Simon got in there. Yes, so let's get in there quickly, Charlotte urged. I want a taste of it as well. Me too, Magda added, and rushed ahead of Gretchen and Charlotte. Ahoy! A voice rang out just as Gretchen was shutting the front door. She peered out. Penny! Hector! Where were you hiding? We were just turning the corner when I saw the door closing, so I called out, Penny explained. Perfect timing, darling, Gretchen said, giving her a peck on the cheek. How's my favourite Mr. Bernstein? Gretchen smiled, also kissing Hector on the cheek. Still in a very bad way, Hector sobbed. Maybe the whiskey'll help. Here's hoping, Hector smiled, bringing out a bottle from the carrier bag in his hand. Gretchen surveyed it. It's the same as the one they're all rushing in to drink inside, she noted. Yes, Kunle brought this the last time he came. Put it back, Gretchen whispered. Why? If it's as special as you all seem to think it is, then it's not something to be drank all at once. You should see how they drink it in Nigeria. You wouldn't know it's a $4 grand bottle. £4,000? Gretchen cried, barely audibly. Yes. Are you sure? Penny whispered. Very sure. I saw the price in the supermarket when we were out there. No wonder they're all running to get a taste, Gretchen said. This is oligarch booze. That's not seen in these parts. Turning to Penny, she whispered, Where's your bag? Here. That's never going to fit, Gretchen frowned. Fit what? This bloody bottle, Gretchen cried softly. There's no way I'm permitting 2 bottles to be drank in one night. It doesn't matter, Hector told her. I got given another one when we were in Nigeria. I don't care if you were given 10. My conscience would not permit me to serve more than 1 bottle at a time in my house. In fact, 1 bottle is too much. Penny began to laugh. What are you going to do, snatch the rest of the bottle off them? I have my ways, you'll see. Putting the whiskey back inside the bag, Gretchen removed the 2 bottles of champagne that were also in the bag. Here, she said, thrusting the bag with the whiskey at Penny. Hide this and take it home with you when you're leaving. She paused. On second thoughts, no, I don't trust you. Give me back the bag. I'm going to hide it, and I'll give it to you when you're leaving. Gretchen! Hector appealed. Nope, this is not going to be consumed all at once. Just a bit at a time on special occasions. Tonight's a special occasion, Hector reminded her. We're celebrating the Nigeria deal. Yes, and that's why I'm permitting 1 bottle to be consumed. So let's go in and celebrate. Linking arms with Penny, Gretchen smiled. Come along, Hopalong. Let's go and have a taste of how the other half live. As the other guests began to arrive, Mick and Hector regaled them with tales of Nigeria. By the time Rupert and Sarah made an appearance, all the other guests had enrolled to visit Mick when he headed back to Nigeria. Sarah and Rupert's arrival caused quite a stir. It was the first time the gang was seeing Sarah's blue hair. Now that's what I call a statement, Nathan declared, coming closer to admire Sarah's blue hair. It's not quite Smurf blue, is it? But close enough. Sarah scowled at him. I beg your pardon? You're like the pretty little Smurf lady. Yeah, very original, Nathan, Sarah quipped. I'm not trying to be original, Nathan maintained. She was a very sexy little Smurf lady. I had a crush on her. Oh, God, here we go, Charlotte exclaimed loudly, rolling her eyes in despair. What he's trying to say is that you look fab, darling. That's what I was explaining, Nathan cut in. Well, you were doing a very poor job of it, Charlotte scolded him. No more whiskies for you, mister. And with that, Charlotte dragged Nathan off. As they passed Magda, Nathan leant forward and whispered loudly, You next? I can just see it. Simon roared with laughter. Magda with blue hair? Now that's a sight I'd pay money not to see. She'd be more troll than Smurfette, he guffawed. Flashing him a glare, Magda jabbed him in the ribs with her elbow, causing Simon to begin to splutter and Penny to begin to laugh out loud. The evening was a great success. The room buzzed with excited chatter and laughter and compliments on the food, which, to Gretchen's horror, Mick let slip that he had brought back with him from Nigeria. But he stood his ground, later whispering in private, Look, they've eaten the lot, and there's no one complaining or feeling short-changed or thinking that you served them old food. Old food? What old food? Benjamin asked, catching the end of Mick's comment. The Thai we served, Mick teased, holding fast onto Gretchen and preventing her from bolting in shame. It was very nice food, Benjamin complimented. Is there any left? In the freezer. Shall I defrost you some more? If it's not too much bother, Benjamin drawled. Me too, Jemima piped up. See, Mick told Gretchen and kissed her. Anyone else for more grub while I'm in the freezer? Mick shouted. Yes, please, different voices called out. The food's a hit, Mrs. Hanson, Mick whispered to Gretchen. Good call, Mr. Hanson. I'll cook some more rice, while you defrost and heat up the other bits. Halfway through the night, Mick signalled for silence. Raising his glass, he declared, Ladies and gentlemen, let's raise a glass to good food, fantastic friends, great tunes, and my wonderful wife, who, I'm hoping, will soon become a Smurfette. To Smurfettes! Nathan cheered, while the others laughed. And to Mick, the true master of this merry mayhem, Gretchen cheered. To Mick, they all cheered. From this point, the music changed to a faster and more flirtatious tempo that incited the guests to dance. Sarah and Rupert led the dancing with playful moves that matched the levity of the music. Nathan approved. See, he said to Charlotte, who knew Sarah could move this well? This is what blue hair does. That could be us if you'd only get blue hair. Of course, dear, Charlotte riposted. Me with blue hair and you with a hip replacement. We'd be all set, wouldn't we? Hearing their banter, Sarah laughed. Oh, don't mind us, she said. We're just trying to remember what it was like when we were young and reckless. Rupert pretended to frown. I'll have you know, dear, I'm still young and very reckless at heart. Sarah eyed him. Young I can cope with, but reckless, don't even entertain the thought. Meanwhile, Magda, who always appeared composed and controlled, giggled giddily with Penny as they bantered with double entendre. As Gretchen leant over to top up their glasses, Magda let her know that this is your very best dinner party yet. The music, the food, the company. She motioned towards Penny. Everything's perfect. So relaxed and relaxing. I'm having such fun. At previous dinner parties, Magda had only ever managed to say, Thanks for having us. Yes, Penny concurred. You're so relaxed and happy tonight. It's really wonderful to see you like this, Gretch. It's wonderful to be happy again, Gretchen smiled. I hope one day I can make Mick as happy as he has made me. I think you already have, darling, Penny told her. Hang tight. I feel the best is yet to come for both of you. End of Chapter 9. Chapter 10. The early morning sun cast a golden hue on the dew-kissed back lawn. As walking down the stairs of her house, Gretchen surveyed the remnants of the previous night's festivities. Ugh, she grimaced, but made no attempts to start the clearing up. She continued towards the kitchen. Not bad, she noted. As walking through the dining room, she assessed the mess. Then suddenly, Oh, God! she cried on entering the kitchen. Where does one begin? Grabbing a bin bag, Gretchen busied herself with collecting up the empty bottles. I should have started the clearing up before going to bed, she thought, but then remembering her promise to Mick to stress less about everything, Gretchen smiled. Something in the corner by the window caught her attention. Walking over, Gretchen picked up the empty bottle of expensive whiskey. I could have sworn I've already collected this, she thought, beginning to rummage through the almost full bag of bottles. I knew I had, Gretchen frowned. Mick and Hector, I'll kill the pair of them, she grizzled quietly. Just then Gretchen's watch began to beep. She checked it. 6:15. Time for a glass of kombucha, and then, stretching in the garden, she decided silently. Placing the full bin bag in the corner where she'd found the empty whiskey bottle, Gretchen washed her hands and poured herself a glass of kombucha. With slow sips, she emptied the glass and headed to the back door. Opening the glass door wide, Gretchen stepped out into the crisp air, looking invigorated and ready for her morning run. The chirping of the birds and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze was like a symphony of nature welcoming her to embrace the day ahead. Gretchen inhaled deeply, allowing the tranquility of the moment to wash over her. As she began her stretching exercises, Gretchen noticed Mick's sleepy figure emerging from the open kitchen sliding door. His greying blonde hair tousled, and his open dressing gown revealing an athletic and tanned torso. Gretchen's gaze softened. Her eyes followed Mick's approach, glass in hand and the remnants of sleep still evident in his sleepy smile. "Drink this before you go," he said. He handed her a perfectly chilled glass of kombucha, their fingers brushing lightly against each other, sending a subtle wave of warmth through Gretchen's body. Taking the glass, she hugged him tightly. "I could quite get used to this again," she said, kissing him lightly on the lips. It was nice that Mick had remembered, and even nicer that he'd woken up to pour a glass for her like he used to years ago. As Gretchen happily polished off her second glass of kombucha, the doorbell rang. "There's Lottie," she announced. Charlotte and Gretchen went running together every Sunday morning. Taking the empty glass from Gretchen, Mick drew her back in for a soft, lingering kiss. "Thank you for last night," he whispered. "It was wonderful. You outdid yourself." Returning the kiss, Gretchen looked lovingly into his eyes. "It was a team effort, so thank you." "No, thank you. No, thank you." The doorbell rang again, interrupting their silly banter. "She's getting impatient," Gretchen giggled, and gently pulled from their embrace. Making her way towards the house, Gretchen turned back to look at Mick. "What's our program for today?" she asked. "Dominic and Noah," he smiled back. "I'll think of something fun for us all to do before we drive them back to school." "Coolio," Gretchen said, and limbered through the back door and into the house. As he watched his wife disappearing left into the foyer, Mick exhaled the joy he was feeling with a wide smile. "It's great to be included in we again," Mick mused, with an even wider smile. For longer than he could remember, it was, "I'm doing, the boys and I are, what are your plans?" Heading towards the front door, Gretchen too smiled. It felt so natural referring to our program, and hearing Mick say, "We drive them back to school." School runs had been solo trips for either of them for a while now. Strapping her mobile phone onto her left bicep, Gretchen tucked her keys into the front pouch in her running leggings and opened the front door to Charlotte's eager and expectant smile. "You look as fresh as this morning," Gretchen commented on seeing Charlotte's wide-eyed bright smile. She closed the door behind her. "Oh, I don't know about that, but I'm definitely up for this run. I've been overindulging of late and need to get back in shape," Charlotte replied, pulling gently on her stomach. "I can't take this on holiday with me," she ended. Gretchen laughed. "So, St. Joseph or St. Mary's today?" As well as catching up on each other's lives, the two friends took the opportunity to go to early Mass while on their Sunday run. "How about St. Gabriel's?" Charlotte counter-offered. "It's a little further, and we haven't been there for a few weeks now." Gretchen pulled her face. "I need to get back as soon as possible today, and Mass there is by 9 a.m. St. Joseph's then? Cool." Gretchen nodded in agreement, and they set off. The two women fell into a comfortable rhythm as they made their way via the longer route to Highgate, their feet pounding the pavement in unison. Heading down Duke's Avenue, they cut across the avenue and into Alexandra Park towards the pond where the geese and ducks were beginning to slowly stir. "Last night was fantastic, by the way," Charlotte said. "I really enjoyed myself," Gretchen admitted. "So we all saw. You and Mick were like a couple of teenager lovebirds. What's your secret?" Charlotte teased, as bearing right away from the pond, she made as if to head towards the palace building. "Hello!" Charlotte called out to Gretchen, who continued to run in silence. "Gretch?" Charlotte tried again. this time turning to look at Gretchen as they both veered left and headed downwards in the direction of the pitch and putt course. "What?" Gretchen finally responded with a wistful smile. Charlotte cast a quizzical look. "What's the matter with you?" "Nothing. I'm just happy." The morning sun filtered through the lush greenery of the park, casting speckled patterns of light and shadow on the path ahead. The scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the aroma of blooming flowers, creating an intoxicating marriage of fragrances that invigorated the senses. As they navigated the twists and turns of the trails, the tranquil scenery of Alexandra Park enveloped them, providing a serene backdrop for their conversation. "I know you are," Charlotte remarked. "That's why I'm asking for details, woman. Come on, spill the beans. What's turned things around for the two of you?" Gretchen glanced at her friend, matching her brisk pace as they continued their run. "It's nothing specific," she tried to explain. "It's... something has shifted in me." "What has and how?" "It's hard to explain," Gretchen told Charlotte. "But seeing Mick so invigorated after his trip to Nigeria and hearing all the things he's been doing over the past 4 years, I realized that I was the problem." "Really?" "Yes. I was stuck in the rut of my own terms, so I'm trying a different approach now." "And that's it?" "That's it," Gretchen confirmed. They approached the gentle incline, their breathing growing heavier with each step, the rhythmic pounding of their feet against the pavement keeping steady time with each other. "I've always loved Mick. Now I'm loving him on his terms," Gretchen added. "On his terms?" Charlotte echoed. "Now I know aliens are real and you're an alien." Presenting as Gretch. "What have you done with my friend? Gretch, Gretch, where are you?" Charlotte joked, causing Gretchen to laugh out loud. The scenic landscape of Alexandra Park unfolded before the two women as they made their way along the different terrains, their footsteps in sync with the thumping cadence of their hearts. The vibrant tapestry of colours, created by the diverse flora and fauna, offered a visual melody of natural beauty. Towering trees stretched their branches skyward, casting sprinkled patterns of light and shadow on the trail below, while a gentle breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying the sweet scent of blooming flowers. "I'm not saying I'm completely rehabilitated. I'm allowing myself to be reconditioned," Gretchen continued. "Reconditioned?" Charlotte laughed. "Now I've heard it all." "But that's what it is," Gretchen insisted. "Do you know how hard it was for me to give Mick such a free rein of the party last night? You seemed to enjoy it." "I did, very much so, but the logistics were trying." "It seemed very well organised." Gretchen grunted. "Not my kind of organisation. I didn't like the fact that we were using the food that had been cooked by Kunle's chef 2 days before." "It was delicious. I loved it, as did everyone else," Charlotte enthused. "If you still got any left, I'll take it off you. I have no issues about when it was cooked." "I loved it too, and have no issues eating it myself, but I like to serve guests freshly cooked food. You're a great cook, darling, but I'm glad Mick won that round. That food was out of this world." "I know it was, but it wasn't cooked fresh on the day." "Who cares?" "I do. Things like that matter to me, as does the choice of crockery on which they are served." Charlotte flashed Gretchen a surprised look. "What was wrong with the crockery?" she asked. "Clearly nothing if you didn't notice that everything was mismatched, but I bet you Magda noticed." Charlotte burst out laughing. "Hi, Magda!" she roared with laughter. "Magda wouldn't have recognised her own mother last night, much less noticed mismatched plates and salvers. The whiskey had the woman defeated." Gretchen, followed closely by Charlotte, crested the hill and began their descent. Their pace slowed momentarily as they took in the beauty of the panoramic view of the meandering pathways before picking up speed once again. "Don't talk to me about that whiskey," Gretchen grizzled. "I want to talk about it," Charlotte insisted. "I looked it up last night to try and get some from Nathan. Do you know how much it costs?" "I do." "Bloody Nora, Gretch. If someone gave us that, I'd hide it, especially from Nathan, and I'd ration it a tablespoon a year on my birthday." Gretchen began to laugh again. "I wish Hector could hear you. He thought I was being stingy for saying we could only have 1 bottle. "You had more bottles?" Charlotte quizzed. "Yes, Hector brought another bottle." "Did he realise the value of it?" "Yes," Gretchen replied. "He told me the value." "And he brought it as if it was a Chardonnay?" "Yes, and a couple of bottles of champagne along with it," Gretchen elucidated. "Have you all won the lottery and told nobody?" "No," Gretchen replied, roaring with laughter. "Well, that deal they made in Nigeria must be mega." "Well, it's pretty significant, but Hector served a bottle last weekend before they went to Nigeria." And Penny doesn't mind? No, she couldn't care less. Well, Charlotte sighed, seeing as the bottles were gifts from Nigerians, I'll put Penny's apathy to the cost down to Nigerian generosity. But what's Mick and Hector's excuse? Gretchen shrugged. Call it male detachment to material things? Their detachment to material things, perhaps, but certainly nothing to do with the gender. Nathan's fused to the material. At that moment the friends veered onto the nature walk linking Alexandra Park to Highgate Wood. The occasional punctuation of the light Sunday morning traffic sounds slowly gave way to the tranquil ambience of their surroundings. Falling silent, the women in their quiet reverie meandered with the path through a picturesque woodland where ancient trees seemed to whisper secrets of bygone eras, and the soft rustling of wildlife in the underbrush hinted at the park's hidden inhabitants. We're very blessed to live where we do, Charlotte mused aloud. I know. I wish Nathan appreciated it more. He's a city boy. He's many things. Charlotte paused, including not happy. With? Gretchen inquired. With or about anything. He always wants what other people have, and then... Gretchen turned to look at her friend, wondering if that included Charlotte. Charlotte was married when she met Nathan, and she left her husband for Nathan. I think he's having an affair, Charlotte confessed. Not him as well, Gretchen exclaimed loudly. She had heard the same comment from Sarah a few days back regarding Rupert. Is Mick having an affair? No, Gretchen dismissed the idea without a thought. Mick's not the kind. I'm not saying that Nathan is, she added quickly. Nathan is the type, Charlotte declared emphatically. This wouldn't be his first or second. What? Gretchen gasped. How do you know? I've caught him on numerous occasions. Once in our bed before we got married. And you married him? Charlotte stopped running and stooped forward to catch her breath. Gretchen followed suit. Charlotte gave Gretchen a resigned smile. He convinced me that it was because he was feeling insecure that I might go back to Jim. And you believed him? Charlotte shrugged. I was in love. And the second time? It was too close to the wedding. I didn't want to look a fool. And if he's cheating now? Charlotte shrugged sadly. Meaning? Gretchen wondered aloud. I don't have the energy to start again, Gretch, and I don't want to be alone. Gretchen's eyes softened and she drew her friend into a hug. I'm so sorry, she consoled as Charlotte began to cry. Does anyone else know? No! Charlotte half shouted. I'd rather die than let people know. I don't even know why I told you. She paused for a moment. That's not true. I told you because I needed to tell someone. I can't bear it any more, Gretch. Gretchen watched her thoughtfully. Are you going to confront him? She asked Charlotte. I'm too scared to. What if I do and he admits it? Then what? But you said you wouldn't leave. I don't want to, but if I ask and he says yes, I'll have to act, won't I? Self-respect and all that. She laughed dryly, her eyes beginning to well up again with tears. Self-respect. Gretchen didn't know what to say except, I'm sorry you've been going through this on your own. You really should have said something. And then? I don't know. Gretchen shrugged and gave Charlotte another hug. Sometimes it helps to unburden oneself. Wiping away her tears, Charlotte slowly took off running until Gretchen caught up, and they increased the pace. In silence, the women pelted the path with their fast footsteps, as if trying to outrun their thoughts. The serene waters of the nearby stream sparkled in the morning sun, its gentle gurgling providing a soothing soundtrack to their frenzied pace. A wooden footbridge carried them across the water, affording them a mesmerizing view of the crystal-clear stream below, where playful fish darted amongst the smooth stones lining the river bed, but neither women noticed. They ran as if anesthetized to the beauty around them. Further along the trail, the remnants of the old railway line emerged, the weathered tracks now a silent residue of the area's storied past. As they ascended a gentle incline, the London skyline rose before them in all its grandeur, a striking contrast to the verdant haven that enveloped them. Charlotte stopped sharply, as if hit by an unseen force. I have to leave him, she decided. I can't live like this any more. He'll never change. They never change. You changed, Gretchen thought, musing about Charlotte and her original affair with Nathan. No, she decided silently. Charlotte had never been an affair kind of person. She'd fallen in love with Nathan, and stay or leave, Nathan will always be Charlotte's forever guy, as Charlotte had told her years ago. Gretchen's thoughts went to Mick. He was her forever guy. Immediately her left bicep began to vibrate. It was her phone ringing. Gretchen retrieved it and glanced down at the screen. It was Mick. She smiled. Hello, you. Mummy, Mummy! The voice on the line cried out. It was Noah. He sounded scared. Gretchen's heart stopped. I'm here, darling. What's wrong? Something's wrong with Daddy. Daddy, Daddy, wake up! Dominic's voice could be heard from a little further away. Oh, God! Gretchen gasped. What's wrong? Charlotte intercepted. Now, darling, what's wrong with Daddy? He keeps falling asleep and is talking funny noises. Gretchen could still hear Dominic's voice calling Mick. Daddy, please wake up. Listen, Noah, Daddy's just tired. Mummy's on her way, okay? Okay, he repeated listlessly. Noah, 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 please listen to Mummy. Please, Noah, Noah, please take the phone to Daddy for me. The little boy obeyed. Dominic's voice was getting louder. Daddy, Daddy, please wake up, he continued to cry. Noah, darling, Noah, Noah, please put the phone to Daddy's ear for me and hold it there. I want to speak to him. Noah obeyed, and the laboured sound of Mick's breathing could be heard. Mick, please, Mick, Mick, can you hear me? Mick, answer me. Mick, please answer me. Say something. Oh, Mick, please, please, please stay. Please, Mick, please don't die. Mick, wake up. Please, Mick, wake up. Without looking at Charlotte, she announced that I need to get back home. And with that, Gretchen changed direction and headed home at full speed via the shortest route. Retrieving her phone from her pocket, Charlotte dialed 999 while keeping pace with Gretchen, who continued pleading with Mick to wake up and not die. End of chapter 10. Oh dear. Aye. More sorrow for poor Gretchen and her sons. Poor Mick. Poor Mick. Anyway, we'll see what happens in the chapters that follow. Until then, my questions for this week are, let's start with the whiskey. That whiskey. If you had that whiskey, would you be like Mick and Hector and share it out freely? Or would you be like the ladies who want to, share it out tablespoon at a time on special occasions? What would you do? I'd love to know. Please let me have your answers in the comments section as usual. Thank you. The next one is about Charlotte. Gosh, shock. Charlotte going through all this all these years. Wow. So, do you think she's going to leave? Or will she stay like she did the other times? Once again, answers in the comment section. And thank you very much again for being here this week. And I look forward to us reuniting next week for the next chapters. Until then, take care and have a fantastic week. Take care. Bye-bye.